From Global's newsroom at 7 o'clock, all pupils in England whose families claim universal credit are to become eligible for free school meals. Charities have welcomed the change, which will take effect in September 2026, but say the two-child benefit cap still needs to be lifted. It'll extend the free meals to 500,000 more pupils. Daniel Kebede from the National Education Union has told LBC it's a welcome first step.
The thresholds for being able to access free school meals were incredibly tight. You know, if you were a family that earned over £7,500 a year, you would have been ineligible. So that meant lots of children in poverty were missing out.
Just coming up on 7:49 or 11 minutes before 8 now, while many might question the policy over winter fuel payments and other decisions by the government, one wing that's providing food for thought and seems a definite positive in the increase of number of children who will get free school meals, cited at around 500,000. So how have they achieved it? Let's turn to Labour MP and Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson, who joins me now. Congratulations to you and your team. This would seem fantastic news. What more detail can you give us? Good morning, Secretary of State.
Hello, good morning. It is fantastic news for children and families across our country. It means that more families will be eligible for free school meals, so all families receiving universal credit will now be able to receive free school meals, and that will put £500 per child per year back in the pockets of working parents. It will benefit 500,000 children, and critically, it will lift 100,000 children out of poverty. You know, I've been clear that the moral mission of this Labour government is to lift children out of poverty, and today we show that we're serious about making that happen, and also serious about making sure that our children are really well placed to learn at school, because if you're hungry, it's so hard to concentrate, and it puts real pressure on schools as well.
So the funding comes from the way of putting money back into parents' pockets, or, additional funding to the schools that provides meals? Just break that down for me, if you would.
Sure. So the way the process works at the moment, and what we're expanding, is that parents who have a household income of under £7,500 a year are eligible for a free school meal. And every year schools collect information about which parents fall into that category. But it's a bit complicated because you can be in receipt of universal credit in certain circumstances, but it's a more complicated system. This is much more straightforward, much simpler, because people will know if they're on universal credit or not. Schools will collect that information and they will receive the funding in order to deliver the food.
OK. How happy are you with the meals that are provided to our school children? Are you able to check their nutritious value, or is that something you and your colleagues haven't got to yet?
No, alongside this, we're also announcing that we are going to review school food standards. They haven't been looked at for a while, and lots of campaigners have raised with me the importance of looking at them to make sure that they are really nutritious, healthy, have good value for children. So we're going to review that alongside the extra changes we're making around expanding access to free school meals. And, you know, this will be a game changer for so many of your listeners It will be a big boost in terms of their household income. It will make life a lot easier. They won't have to worry about paying for their children's meals at school, because that will be sorted out for them.
When you were campaigning in the last general election, you and I had some healthy conversations about the policies regarding VAT imposition on private school fees. How many additional teachers have been hired as a result of that policy?
We're publishing data, I think, actually later on today. But we have. So I'm not sure if I'm allowed to give you the exact figure, but we have seen.
Oh,
actually
come on!
a big
You're
increase.
Allowed to tell me, Bridget Phillipson. Come on.
We've seen a big increase in the number of teachers coming into the profession, and also we're doing a lot more to keep great teachers. So we're moving absolutely in the right direction. We are seeing a net increase, and that is a fantastic step forward. It's because, as a government, not only have we prioritised education, we've also been able to deliver a pay award for our teachers too. And it's not just pay, it's some of those wider conditions. And I think that's where I would link it back to today's announcement around free school meals. One of the biggest challenges that schools face, and that they tell me they face, is the number of children in poverty and the impact that it has on their ability to do their jobs, their ability to focus on education, on delivering brilliant teaching. So This isn't just a measure today that will put more money back into parents' pockets. It will also help children to learn at school, and it will help teachers, it will help staff, it will also help our schools.
Oh, OK. So we will hear the actual number. I appreciate you maybe you don't want to give the number if it's a big sort of press release later, but we will hear the actual number, will we?
We publish data on this, you will, and the numbers are absolutely moving in the right direction. I can give you that assurance.
OK. Numbers that perhaps aren't moving in the right direction as regards the winter fuel payment policy. We now see a U-turn of sorts by your senior colleague, the Chancellor. Why has it taken 11 months for her to actually say it?
You know, right back at the start of our time in government in July, we faced some really big challenges in the public finances, and we did have to make some decisions then, including taking away the winter fuel allowance. But what the Prime Minister and the Chancellor have both said is that we have listened. We do want to expand eligibility to more pensioners. We'll be doing that soon. But we don't think that we want to take it back to, for example, millionaires receiving the winter fuel allowance. But we do want more pensioners ahead of the winter to benefit from this.
So how will it be means tested, Secretary of State?
I'm afraid it's more than my job's worth to come on your programme today and set out all of the detail on that. But you won't have, I'm sure the Chancellor will make sure that when she announces the changes, that there is an opportunity to look in detail at the mechanisms by which that will be delivered.
All right. You might not have had sight yet of one newspaper, The Guardian. They quote government insiders talking of a potential time lag of at least 6 months between the payment of up to £300 being made and then being clawed back, which they fear could leave thousands of people who would die in that period, leaving their grieving families to pay the bill. How concerned are you by that, if it's true?
I mean, I can't comment on newspaper speculation, but what I can say is...
How would you prevent that? I mean, they do seem... The way it's set out, it does seem to be a potential bump in the road, Secretary of State.
Look, we're determined to get this right. I can't comment on speculation. It's not for me to make announcements around precise mechanisms as to how this will be delivered. But what I can say is that we do want more pensioners to receive the winter fuel allowance, and the Chancellor, the Prime Minister, will set out how that will happen. OK. You don't think this U-turn's embarrassing, then? I think we faced some really tough choices right back at the start of our time in government. But everything was fully costed, do you remember? Yeah, but what we also discovered was that there were lots of things that hadn't been paid for by the last government, weren't taken into account and weren't costed. So one example, we're talking about education. The School Teachers Review Body, the peer review body, makes a recommendation for how much teachers should be paid. The last government had received that report. They left it in the Department for Education. On my first day in the Department for Education, I was presented with this document with a recommendation of a 5.5% pay award for teachers. The money that had been allocated for that award, zero. So there were lots of areas where we had to make decisions because, the last Conservative government hadn't dealt with some of these long-standing challenges. We've dealt with them because we've stabilised the economy, because we've made choices about the public finances. We're now in a position to set out the kinds of announcement that I'm making today around expanding access to free school meals. That's a Labour choice. That is a different choice. We know that people voted for change at the last election, and this is the kind of change that people voted for.